freedom, Deuteronomy 16. So in Deuteronomy 16, it's a review, and it's reviewing the Passover, Feast of Weeks, Feast of Tabernacles, and it talks about justice must be administered. So in the Passover, it's all about still remembering that you came out of Egypt, and you came out of Egypt by night. You couldn't even see. Can you imagine walking through Egypt with no lights or nothing, just the sky, and God guided them out. He said, you're supposed to remember this, and you're supposed to remember this for all the days of your life. And he's going to tell you where he wants you to sacrifice and not to work on the seventh day. They call it the Sabbath day. But we have to get to the point where we understand that God has given us a lot of information, but he never gives you everything when you don't need him to get to your final destination. He said, I'm going to tell you where you need to sacrifice. And when I tell you where the place is, that's when you do it. And a lot of times we get in our head that we know enough about what God wants that we don't need to ask him anything. We just keep doing what we want to do. The Feast of Weeks, he said, after 7 weeks of sowing, that there you will give a free will offering. And a lot of us is doing not even sowing 7 weeks. We can't even pray for an hour. You saw what happened with Jesus. They couldn't even pray with Jesus for an hour. So what happens there is that he said you need to remember. So he said, because when you remember that after 7 weeks of sowing and giving your free offering, it's for you to remember that you were a slave. You were a slave. We're in Egypt. The Passover is to remember that how you got out of Egypt. So all these things are to keep us in remembrance of what God did for us. Feast of Tabernacles, you do that for 7 days, and God will bless your produce and the work of your hands, and then you can rejoice. And of course, you're going to rejoice if your produce, your increase is being blessed, and everything you put your hand to is being blessed. You're going to rejoice. But what I really like is, and a lot of us ain't putting in the time. That's why we can't rejoice, because we ain't trying to put in the time to sow what it is that we want to reap. But one of the things I like, it says justice must be administered. He says you should not pervert justice, but we do. You should not show partiality, but we do. Nor take a bribe, but we do. For a bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and twists the words of the righteous. You shall follow what is altogether just, but we don't, that you may live. That's why you want to do what's right, so you can live and inherit the land in which the Lord your God is giving you. You should not set up a sacred pillar, which the Lord your God hates. And what we do is we do all this stuff in justice the opposite way, and then we set up our own ways that we want to do stuff, and we want God to bless it. We got to get better, because that's the only way we can do better, is to decide to get better. That's my time. Stay free.